Good evening. Good evening, everyone.
Oh, sorry. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Young Voices Making Choices weekly podcast. I am Melissa Mack.
And I am Aspen McCarr. We are your YVMC hosts for tonight. In recognition of April being Autism Awareness Month, we are excited to introduce to you our 3 guests joining us this evening. All are visionaries who have aligned themselves with the talented 10th of our culture and generation. The talented 10th, a phrase coined by W.E.B. Du Bois, refers to that 1/10 of our society who are becoming leaders through continuing their education, writing books, making movies, or being involved in social change.
First, I would like to introduce Faith Roten, Auntie Faith. She is an advocate for students with special needs. As a parent of a son with autism, Faith understands the complexities when trying to obtain services and resources for her child with unique requirements. Additionally, Faith is a spokesperson for the Special Needs Network. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do for the Special Needs Network?
Oh, I'm on right now.
Yeah, that's you.
I work with the Special Needs Network as a parent advocate. I'm also a mentor, and I actually help parents who need special resources for their children. Being that I went through a stage of not having any type of help for my child when we were going through his stages of being assessed, I actually linked up with the Special Needs Network, and they actually helped me gain resources for my child. He is now 15. He is fully engaged in high school. He doesn't have a traditional IEP anymore, but that was with a lot of the resources that I have gotten from the Special Needs Network. Actually, I don't know what I would be or do without them. It was 9 years ago that we started our journey, and I've actually walked on the floor of Sacramento to help pass laws as well to help families gain intervention for their children that's included in their insurance. So I've done a lot over these years, and there's just much more to go.
Yeah. The work is not done.
Right.
Never.
But that's amazing that you were able to see that growth.
Mm-hmm.
We also have noteworthy writer, director, producer, actor, and entrepreneur at Ironbeard Films. Zane Hubbard is in the house.
He does it all, everybody.
And he brought a special guest. One also is a producer as well as a director and writer, as well as actor. Brandon Larkins is also in the house.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you
us.
both for
Thank you.
coming and being a part of tonight's show. As Zane, as a parent of a beautiful daughter with autism, you created the TV series The Chronicles of Jessica Wu. Yes. It is a story about a young girl on the autism spectrum who mastered martial arts. Jessica, played by Helena Alexis Seymour, becomes a hero in her city and takes down some of the most ruthless villains in Los Angeles. Zane, being a writer, producer, and an actor, can you tell us about your experience going from acting on shows like Grey's Anatomy to writing and producing Friend Zoned and shows like, The Chronicles of Jessica Wu?
Oh, wow. You went way back. Yeah. Actually, I started back in college. I was doing a lot of plays and stuff in college. And then, in fact, I got Brandon. We were extras on a show called The Corner. And that kind of sparked the flame in him, and he started pursuing acting. And then I came out here, moved to California, and I started, like I said, Grey's Anatomy and some Scandal, doing some background work. And then I decided to do Friend Zone, which was my first short film. And I just fell in love with it. And, when you do something, you'll do it for free, when you love it so much. And that's what happened. And with Chronicles of Jessica Wu, I just been blessed with this opportunity. I'm so grateful for it.
And so how did your acting and producing career start?
It actually started, like Zane said, with him. We were doing background work on a HBO series called The Corner. From there, I went on to become a cast member of HBO's The Wire. I did 3 seasons on that. And it was at that time that I saw a lot of my castmates, like Idris Elba and Wood Harris and all those guys, were coming out here to LA to further their career. And those were guys that I looked up to, like Idris and Morris Chestnut and Darren DeWitt Henson from Soul Food, the series. And I said, you know what? It's time to go. It's time to leave Baltimore, and let's just take this thing a little bit further. Fast forwarding, I had no idea that Zane and his wife and his 2 kids would move out here to LA. And I think he said he had saw me on a television show one day. And he's like, man, wait a minute. I introduced you to this business. And I'm sitting there watching you on TV. He said, I got to go out here and do the same thing. He came out here, and he had a great concept for his daughter, Rain, in Chronicles of Jessica Wu. We started production for season 1 in March of 2017, with the first season debuting in November 2017. And we got such a great response, not just from the autism community, but from people in general altogether, because they had never seen a superhero who, number 1, was a female, and number 2, who's on the autistic spectrum. And she does not let her developmental disability define her. And now the show's just taking off right now. We're grateful for that. We are. And it's all about girl power.
Hey,
Seriously.
more power. Girl power.
That's true.
That's right.
So, how did the idea for Ironbeard films come into fruition?
Well, I'm into comics, and Iron Man is one of my favorite comics, and so I really there's no special story about it. At the time, I had a beard and I had gray hair, so that's where Iron Beard came. I'm getting old, folks, but I'm trying to keep my my swag, I guess.
You still definitely have a beard going, so.
And the jacket.
Right.
Yeah.
Looking real fly tonight, everyone.
Trying. Yeah. But that's where it came from, and I ever since then, like I said, we just took off, and I wanted a logo that was memorable, that people can identify with and say, wow, they make good films, and that's what I want us to be, just the pinnacle of filmmaking.
That's definitely
Dope.
Yeah, it's definitely noteworthy for sure.
Yeah.
All righty. So thank you all for sharing a little bit about yourselves. I'm short, y'all, so I'm messing with this mic. But we have a clip of the Chronicles of Jessica Wu for you guys.
I just believe in giving back to the community. I thought about becoming a scientist, but I haven't quite figured it out yet. I just know that I want to help find cures for diseases and possibly a solution to help improve people's lives who live with autism.
Autism?
Yes, it is a mental condition present from early childhood. It's when you have difficulty communicating and forming relationships with other people.
Yes. I know what autism is. In fact, I find that to be very honorable. But my question to you is, why specifically autism?
Well, I'm autistic. The autism spectrum has been viewed as a disorder, but for me, I think it's been more of an advantage.
Oh, I believe you based on your testing scores and recommendations. Your teachers speak very highly of you. But scores are one thing. I like to get to know the individual.
Well, I'm here.
Yes, you are. So it says here that you were able to configure and complete college-level math calculus at the age of 8?
Actually, trigonometry. Calculus is a study of differentiation and integration, and trig is a study of sides and angles of triangles. I have an infatuation with shapes and numbers.
Yes.
So that's a clip from the first episode of the second season of the Chronicles of Jessica Wu. She threw a lot in there, but one thing she did say was the definition of autism. Would any of you like to expound or add any thing to that definition?
Throw it at me. Thanks, Brandon. So the causes or
The definition. You can actually do both.
There's no real definition of autism because it's a spectrum. Some kids are affected more than others. They go from severely to higher functioning, and then we have a middle ground as well. Some kids are inaudible; they don't speak. Some kids do speak. Some kids read. Some kids don't read. So it just depends. Every child that's on the spectrum is not the same. My son, for instance, he was on the middle range functioning wise, but with my help of getting my degree in psychology and specializing in behavioral modification, thank you very much.
Yes, thanks.
I was able over the years to help him modify his behavior. And so now he's on a more higher functioning part. Our goal was for him to be able to go through high school in a regular school setting, and he is actually doing that. So, and he finished. He was in physics. He finished physics in the ninth grade.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
That is wonderful.
Yes, with a high B. He is something else. So,
Go JoJo.
yes, go JoJo, right?
Go JoJo.
Yes, JoJo.
I dropped physics.
Right. So, the kids are they're extraordinary. Some kids have physiological issues as well as they don't have a physical disability. It's all within their developmental. So, but some of our kids have sleeping disorders. Some of them can't eat certain foods. Some of them not only because of the texture, but because they're allergic to them.
Right.
Some kids are allergic to a lot of medications. A lot of them have sleep apnea. So there's a lot of things that goes within the definition of autism, even though, every day, with research, they're finding more and more things. It's not vaccine. They're actually finding that it's in utero, that they're finding that the differences are being developed. And so, normal when you find or see someone that's autistic, they probably won't have eye contact. Some of them have tantrums. Some of them are motor sensory, so they can't handle certain lights. They can't handle certain sounds. They can't handle the wind. They can't handle heat. They can't handle being too cold. So a lot of those things affect them as well. They really don't socialize. So if they don't like some of them, and I can't say all of them because it's a spectrum, right. But some of them don't like to be touched. They don't like the feeling of being touched. My son, which was so funny, when he was smaller, he doesn't like loose pants. He doesn't like the way loose pants feel. So I thank God that he was born in the generation of skinny jeans because we were able to procure him skinny jeans of all colors, and some of them had to be the same. We had 3 pairs of one color, right, because he liked the pant, but we didn't want him to wear them out. So, but he didn't like certain things the way that they felt. And then he explained to me when he was older that he doesn't like the way it makes him feel when he speaks to or tried to speak to people. It's more anxiety for him. Mm-hmm. So, and then it makes him shut down. It makes him don't want to have the eye contact. And so it's a lot that goes into it. But a lot of them, their social responses aren't as normal as ours are. They might seem like they're having a complete tantrum about nothing, but to them it's something is going on. So they have difficulties mixing with others. They are sometimes aloof. Some of them don't understand safety issues. They don't understand if they're in a dangerous situation or not. And so a lot of times we have to be careful, when we're walking with them, even if we're in the park. Some of them wander. My son, he wandered when he was smaller, which was a danger because at any given time, if we're not holding him, we'll look up, look back, and he's completely gone. In grocery stores, we've lost him a couple of times. But found him after hearing this piece. Yeah. So, and that happens, with us, but they move so quickly. Some of our babies have more than one diagnosis. So my son, he has ADHD on top of his. So we call them twice exceptional. So, and then that's another, thing that we have to deal with as far as, we don't medicate him as at all. He has a sleeping disorder, so we take care of that with chamomile and holistic situations, but we don't believe in medications at all because we don't have no longitudinal studies on how they will do with them later on. A lot of them end up being gateway drugs, which is, what we're finding out now. So, yeah, I've been, blessed enough to, with my education, be able to research a lot of the medications that they were giving them at the time and, make the decision not to, do that. For some kids, it does work, so it just, it's up to the parent. But other characteristics, their motor skills. Some of them don't have fine motor skills. They only develop like one or the other. Sometimes they don't develop them at all. So sometimes they walk a little funny, a little wonky. My son never really, because his fine motor skills are off, so he doesn't tie his shoes. So a thing with him is he always have them tucked. Or you might see me tie his shoes, and he's 15, he's 6'1", he's almost 6'1" now, and then you might see me, crawling down, tying his shoe.
It's okay though.
Yeah, and people are looking at me like, what are you doing? But they don't understand that, with his autism, it doesn't allow him to do that. So there's just other things that, those are some of the things that we deal with, as parents. Yeah.
Yeah. I admire the way that you say our babies. Like, in the autism community, it's just like, you just take them all on. Yep. Like, come on, like, we're all family. Yep. We're working together to figure this thing out. Yep. I really, really admire that.
Some of them, unfortunately, some parents can't even go outside with their kids because of the motor situations. So I know quite a few parents who they don't take trips, outside very often, especially with their child, because of their reaction to the outside world. It becomes to be too much. So yeah, we do. We have been able to, wrap ourselves around each other and really just take each other in, and we understand, sometimes if, we have restless nights, sometimes Josiah doesn't sleep for 4 hours in the night, and so I'm up, and so I'm talking to another parent who's up with her kids. So there's a lot of times where, we don't understand, like our people with normies, with normal kids, don't I call you guys normies, because I have 2 normies on top of my baby with autism, but a lot of parents with normal children don't understand the stuff that we go through. A lot of my friends didn't understand that sometimes I would wake up and I would have to massage him just to get him out of the bed because he had rickets when he was a baby. And so there's a lot of times where his bones just hurt and he's in excruciating pain. And so for the first 30, 40 minutes of our morning, I'm up, giving him, PT, and really like massaging him just to get him out of the bed, so it takes a toll. And so when I talk to my other moms that, have babies and stuff, it's like, oh, girl, let me tell you, it's like sympathy sometimes, and then when they were developing, they develop at different stages too. And so it was fun, as when he was a toddler to being, adolescent, and now he's a teenager and stuff. And some of our parents who had teenagers who already graduated, they're in college now. So it's like, okay, so how is it going to be? How is the transition? So we tag on each other and we help each other. So yeah, we say our babies because it takes a community. It's taking a tribe, and our tribe is getting bigger, which is wonderful. But we're also doing it and educating each other and helping each other out.
All right. Well, thank you for that.
Most definitely, Zane. We would love to hear your feedback on your experience as well as what you feel autism is.
Sure. Well, I can certainly say I agree with you 100%. I mean, the children, autism, it can range from, it's a spectrum, so it's really, everyone's different. For my personal experience, my daughter, she has problems. She's getting better. She has problems speaking. She's working on her communication skills. Eye contact is with our immediate family. She'll look at us, but if you're outside of that family, it's not going to happen. Yeah. So we work on it, and that's Jessica Wu. Same thing. In fact, that's where I base the entire character from. Basically, it's off my daughter's behavior. I didn't really get into the foods yet, but she's very particular about foods. It's more about texture. Yeah. And it's very limited on what she wants to eat. So sometimes we're going to have to get creative, think of some ways to get some grains in her. Because if you don't, they'll eat whatever they want to eat. And what else? I was thinking. There's also in a clip in the movie, someone wanted to shake Jessica Wu's hand. She wasn't having it. No, not.
Right, they don't
She
like
doesn't like being touched.
Yeah, they
And
don't like
my daughter's the same way. She really doesn't like. She likes that personal space. Physically, I mean, she's really good. I wish I could put her in gymnastics or something like that, which I probably will eventually. Yeah. I live in the Inland Empire, so we go to Inland Regional. We work with Inland Regional, and they help her with. We have behavior specialists that come out every day, and they really work hard and just trying to, get her to communicate better. There was a time she used to do a lot of hitting. Yeah, that was a big problem too. We but it's just so amazing that the growth is. You learn to celebrate the small things.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's how I had to learn when I first when we first found we were in denial. She was diagnosed about maybe age 3 or 4, and I just didn't understand certain things, and it was just driving me crazy, and I needed to learn patience, and it took time, and now I totally get it now, what she's going through. I just wish I could help her some way where I could just, it's not like a magic pill you can just give them,
Just love her.
Yeah, that's it. And she
Be
doesn't
her
feel sorry
safety.
for herself. She loves life, and
Right.
my son, as you say, he's a normie, No, he's the bad one. Sometimes I want to be like, man, what is wrong with you? But no, I love both. I love them both. I mean, and it's just I'm really appreciative to be able to create a show that people can identify with, and I'm not saying that your child will become a ninja. Maybe I don't know, but the whole purpose of the martial arts and stuff is for pressure, and my daughter has a need for pressure. She uses these soft ball thingies for the pressure, and so when you see Jessica Wu, clench her fists, it's just that pressure. She enjoys it, and so that kind of goes together.
Have you tried a weighted blanket?
Yep, weighted blanket. We had
you got the vest.
The vest. Yeah, that was the oldie but goodie right there. Yeah, we tried that.
Younger,
Yeah. So, that's my daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He used to like to be squeezed too. Like he would just be like, "Mom, hug me." He'd be like, "Hug me tighter, tighter." And I used to be like, "Okay, I can't hug you too tight." And I used to swab him and wrap him in his blanket. I used to call him Burrito. Because he used to have me swaddle him when he was older. Yeah, but I would like tuck him real tight and stuff. He'd just knock out. Like as soon as he felt that, he would like go to sleep. And that was before, because how old is your daughter?
She's 9.
Okay,
so,
yeah, he's 15. So I'm a couple of years ahead, and they didn't have the blankets yet. They started with the blankets a couple of years back. So. Yeah. He didn't get any of that stuff, but I used to make sure that, he was wrapped real tight and stuff because it made him feel good. And he would tell me, because I used to, ask him, how did that make you feel and stuff. So I would make him speak to me. But when he was 4 and 5 and he wouldn't speak to anyone, and he would get home and all he did was talk. And then I had a friend who called me at like 10 o'clock and she was so excited, but she scared me because she was like, "Oh my God," and I was, "What's going on with you?" She was like, "He talked to me. Josiah can speak." And I said, "Yes, he can." But I never knew. Like, no one heard him speak until he was almost 5 and a half. Like 6, he didn't say anything.
That's about right.
Yeah, so she was just shocked, and he was a little professor. So he used to be like, "Mom, actually, can we do it this way? Actually, let's try it that way." And people did not understand that. I'm like, the boy talks, leave him alone, Don't start. And now he doesn't stop. So.
Right. Well, thank you both so much for sharing your personal experiences. So last week, YVMC had the pleasure of previewing the up-and-coming season of The Chronicles of Jessica Wu. Let's take a look at what Zane shared with us in those present moments.
We're here for Autism Awareness Month. The whole story, Chronicles of Jessica Wu, was inspired by my daughter, who's autistic. My daughter was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3, and she's a amazing woman. I mean, girl, I'm sorry. She's taking me away. She's so bad. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like, it's amazing. And she just likes the fight scenes. Like, she really does it, you know? And so, therefore, and I'm a comic guy, so I was like, I'm going to make something great. And so I put the two together, and I made a phenomenal story. And as you can see, it's a great response. People love it. I wouldn't trade it in for the world. My daughter's Rain. She's magnificent. Hi, my name is Zane. I'm the creator of Chronicles of Jessica Wu, and you're watching Young Voices Making Choices.
Yes.
All right, Jessica Wu.
After seeing the love you have as a father for your daughter, why did you create the dynamic of Jessica's mother being so loving and encouraging, and the stepfather, being cold and emotionally detached from Jessica's daily progress?
Well, yeah, like I said, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I wanted to show and a lot of families will admit this. When like I said, when Rain was, when it was brought to my attention, like, and I realized that Rain is autistic, I was in denial. I had a hard time understanding it, and it beat me up, and it took some time for me to figure it out. I certainly didn't hate her. Actually, I was of course not. I hated the way I was feeling. Like, you start feeling guilty, like, what's something that I do, you know? Then I start pointing my fingers at the doctors, like, what's going on, you know? I wish I could get you guys, I mean, you understand. It's just, you start really questioning yourself, and I was really in a bad place, you know? And of course, the father, Jessica Wu's father, he was more in an extreme case. He was like an alcoholic and whatnot. But due to his ignorance, he just didn't understand. I don't think he wanted to understand, and so that's where that came into. And and it was a tragic event where her mother passed away. And I would like to eventually make a feature film where I can kind of go really into detail with how she grew up and how that transition from her mom to Mr. Wu really came along. And but I'm just getting off topic here. This is a filmmaker in me. I'm sorry, but I just want to say that's where that stirred from. Just me not understanding what is autism, like. What is going on? And it's something we did. Even my wife, she was feeling guilty too, you know, and sometimes we have to talk to each other and let each other know, hey, this is not her fault. Don't feel sorry. She's going to be fine. Mm-hmm. So
it was more of the quality of life.
Yeah.
Once they get older, will they be able to take care of themselves?
Yes.
What will happen to them when we go?
Mm-hmm.
Like, where would they go? Would they be able to, take care of themselves? Would there, are there any, would there be anything set up for them? Like, what would happen? Like, what type of life would they end up living? Because, we went through that too. Me and his father, we were, he was in denial for a while. Until the actual diagnoses. Mm-hmm. And then I already knew. I've already always suspected and knew and was, trying to, find help. And it was just one of those things where I said, he's going to be fine. He has two, strong and loving parents, and, we're going to do everything we can to, figure it out. And so I'm telling you, she has two loving parents,
absolutely.
strong parents, and you guys are figuring it out. And there's so many things that's available to them now that wasn't.
Right.
I had no help for like 2.5, 3 years trying to find someone to even diagnose him and to, assess him. It was a difficult, road for me. So, we were just worried. I was worried, but my thing was get him help now so that later on we wouldn't have to worry,
Of course.
But that's always, but I think that happens with any child, whether they were normal or not, what would happen to them, if something was to happen to me. So, that was one of the big things that was the main thing, because then it's like you think you're going to have kids, they're going to grow up, they're going to get out the house, they're going to, live, these independent lives, and then you have one who now you're making life to where, okay, like for me and Joe, it's like, okay, I'm just going to have to find a piece of property where I could put a place, for him so that he can have a little bit of independence, but he probably still need to be, home and stuff, so he might never get away. But then, so it's one of those things where we had to, just change the way that we thought about, their adulthood, rather. Yeah.
Well, in this millennial generation, everybody's staying home. So,
Right.
I don't think that's an issue just for the autism community.
Right. Yeah.
So I did, back to the topic at hand. I did have another question for you guys, but Brandon has been a little quiet. So I would like to hear from you. What is your experience with autism?
My experience with autism and developmental disabilities is that my major in college was rehabilitation counseling and rehabilitation services. So that's working with individuals with schizophrenia. That's also working with individuals who have been emotionally disturbed. And coming out of college, before this whole entertainment acting thing came on, I became a special ed teacher.
Oh, okay.
So it was one of those things where I was writing IEPs. I was a case manager as well as a teacher, but also a behavioral specialist as well. Because I always say, when you're working with individuals with disabilities, they are not to adapt to you. We are to adapt to them.
Yeah, exactly.
We have to meet them where they are.
Yes.
From jump. And if you're not able to do that, then it's going to be a difficult road for you.
Right.
So when you tie in, like Faith, your son, and you tie in Rain and Jessica Wu, we always have to be willing to listen. We don't know everything. JoJo's situation is going to be different from Rain's. Rain's situation is going to be different from Jessica Wu's. What works for Faith may not work for Zane and his wife at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Right.
And you have to be willing to accept that and to listen. And again, to meet those individuals where they are. So when Zane brought me on as an executive producer of season 1, I really had a background because of my major in college. And I knew what to expect. And I knew what we wanted to portray to the world. Because raising autism awareness is something that a lot of people do not understand. And then let's just be honest, some people don't want to understand it. But it's up to us to be advocates and to be that voice for those individuals who may be nonverbal, or who may have a hard time communicating what their needs and what their wants are.
Right.
If we're able to do that, then we should be pushing that forward, getting that word out to the community and to the rest of the world.
Right. Thank you for that. I did not know that about you. Wow, you got many talents.
And he's a teacher.
Yes, right. Faith and Zane, either one of you can answer this question first. But when your children were diagnosed with autism, did you know where to go? And when did you actually seek help? Go ahead.
How did it happen? I remember we went to a doctor, and the doctor was she was saying, here's, I think she gave me some pamphlets. She was talking about autism. And immediately I was like, oh, she don't know what she's talking about. Whatever. I'm like, we got iron blood, we like, I'm thinking like, no, she doesn't know what it, right. And then, as we began to observe Rain and watch her, like, for example, I remember Christmas time, she had all these toys, didn't want to play with them. She walked away. In fact, I remember she had a horsey or something. She turned it over. She wanted to see how it worked. And I was like, wow. Yeah. And that's when it struck me that maybe she needs some help. There's nothing that I can do, but I can certainly give her the reinforcements to help her out. And just like in the regional, we had pretty much the same thing back in Maryland. And they came to our home, and I mean, they really helped her out, and with feeding and like I said, textures and stuff. Wow. Just, I cannot believe she's 9 years old.
Right.
I mean, I'm sorry, I just got off the topic there, but yeah, I just, it's so great to see the leaps and bounds that she's made. I mean, and like I said, looking at her, you would never know.
Right.
There may be that she's autistic, but once you talk to her and stuff, you can see, she's not looking at me, So I tell people, don't take it personal. It's just
Right.
it's just the way it is,
Right.
and and one more thing, I noticed with a lot of mainly with my family, like they would say, oh, she'll get over it. She'll begin talking in no time. Oh, it's and I think that's where we really need to focus on educating and putting that time and investment into our own people, so we understand that, it's going to take more than just getting over it. She's going to need, this person is going to need help. They're going to need resources,
Right.
time, and that's what we're here for. Yeah.
All right, is that me? Yeah, that's me. It's my question. Oh, no, that's you, Aspen. Would you like to ask the question?
Okay, so how did you modify your parenting methods and home life to accommodate your child's needs? That's, both of you can answer that question.
Accommodations. I accommodated Josiah. I didn't mind it. So before I had children, I was actually a teacher's aide in a special ed class. And I took care of, and I was responsible for 2 children on the spectrum. Never heard of it before. Didn't know what it was. I'm straight out of high school, and here I am taking care of 2 kids, boys that were one who was fixated on trains, and the other one who was nonverbal and ate just about everything. He was real motor sensory, so everything went in his mouth. And so Charlie was his name. He's probably 20. He's well in his 20s right now. That's how long ago it was, because it was almost 20 years ago. And so he's almost 25. Ouch. Wow.
All right, Charlie.
Don't tell your age.
All right,
Come on,
Charlie.
Charlie. And so before he left, before the end of the school year, I had him actually saying commands. So I was actually able to get through to him in some type of way where I would tell him, he would tell me to come, or he would tell me to go. And he wasn't speaking at all. Like, he wasn't uttering a word. And so his mom was trying to figure out how to keep me around, because I was literally the only one who he would respond to, So fast forward a couple years later, here I am with Josiah, and then he started to remind me of the babies I used to take care of. And so I'm like, okay, you're different. And my second baby and him are a year apart. So, CJ. So Cyrus is walking around, and he's like, my name is Cyrus. And he's like, hi. He's waving to everybody. And then I have this one who's behind me, not saying anything to anybody, who's not making eye contact, who don't want to be touched. And they used to always be like, he's the mean one. I'm like, no, he's fine, And
Don't talk about my baby.
Right. He's nice. And so I was always, from day one, this mama bear when it came to JoJo. So later on, he just, we just started to, develop just different things that I would do for him. I would try to get help for him. Nobody would help me. So at one point, I would be like, forget it. We have to figure out how to, and I was going to school for it. So I had stopped my life. I went to school for psychology, got my AA degree. And as soon as I got into my 4-year degree, we was doing behavior modifications. And so some things like sunglasses. So I would find, sunglasses for me. It was too bright for him, so we would have sunglasses. So I had this backpack for him. And I always talk about him and his backpack, because everywhere we went, he had this backpack. Sunglasses, ear thingies.
Earbuds.
Earbuds. He had a toy. He had something that he can spin. He had a couple toys that he can, because he always put things in rows. Yeah. So he always put things in rows. He had a blanket in there. He had a shirt of mine that I had to cut up because he liked the way it feels. And he would never let me wear it, because then he'll come climb on and do so. I took the shirt off. I cut it up. So he will have a piece of the shirt in his pocket. He will have a piece of the shirt in his backpack. And everywhere we go, we had this backpack, And so I would literally have Josiah. Usually, with kids, you let him, play. But for Joe, I used to just make sure that he had one area that he would go to. I had certain people that I would let him be around, and I didn't care what anybody said, because that's what made him feel comfortable. I had to make sure that he was okay, because if not, we would have tantrums, you know, and then we had people who were like, you just need to whoop him, and you just baby him, and you just this and that and the other, and they didn't understand why I was accommodating him the way that I would. You know, I would hold him and pick him up. They would see me tie his shoes when he was older. And so there were certain things that, you know, when you get older kids, you tie your shoe, tie your own shoe. You know, you get other kids, you put your own clothes out. You do, you know. But just like anybody that has a child or anybody or that's a caregiver of anybody that's on the that, you know, have developmental issues or, you know, or, you know, even physical, you know, issues, you know, you make sure that they get what they need, you know, the way that they need it, you know. Right. So we made, you know, the other two, the
normies. The normal ones.
The normal ones, you know, I just sit there, stuff on and stuff. But for Joe, you know, it was like, come on, you know, I would have to, you know, he developed play-wise very late. So he was still a baby, even though he was older. Mentally, he was still a baby, so there were certain things that he just couldn't handle because, you know, we're talking about an 8-year-old that plays like a 5-year-old,
right?
You know,
right.
So.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your accommodations, Zane. What accommodations did you and your wife have to make when you got the news that your child was on the autism spectrum?
Yeah, this is yours.
Okay. That's okay. I remember Rain used to like to chew stuff, all her toys. Like, I mean, so we just gave her stuffed animals, and we also to this day she wears this little necklace, and it has like it's like a little soft plastic thing, and she can kind of chew on it and stuff. I think it's maybe a nervous condition, maybe
it's stimulatory.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And that seems to help. So it gets her from putting her hands in her mouth and putting, you know, foreign objects in her mouth. And so that was the main thing for her. Like I said, with kids, when she would hug someone, she would kind of go in a little too hard. So you gotta, you know, say okay. Yeah, like little Macho Man Randy Savage, you know, like.
They strong kids.
Yeah.
They got some
So like, okay, thank you. But yeah. Those I just remember those were the two main things.
Josiah had a pacifier until he was almost 4.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
He
Yeah.
did. I said whatever. Just if it's gonna soothe you, here, take it. Like, you know. But he eventually threw away my second baby, my third one, 6 months. They don't want it, but he wanted it. So because he needed it, that oral fixation was still in there. By all means, buddy, if it's gonna, you know, calm you down.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
I just make sure that he.
So all of you that have actively been involved, you know, either through education or just, you know, being a producer on the show or just being parents of children with autism, what can we as a community do to help increase awareness and accessibility to the quality of services?
Yeah.
The quality of services is there. We have to be willing to look beyond ourselves and our pride as a people to get them, because our counterparts, they go for it.
And
go ahead.
And you introduced us to the Tools of Transformation event. So can you please let our listeners know what that is about?
So Tools of Transformation is a yearly thing that the Special Needs Network does, where we have families who have kids that are on the spectrum and who have other developmental disabilities. And we basically teach the community, parents, and professionals what we actually do. So what they do is we have like breakout sessions. We have a breakfast. There is a vendor. What is that called? A vendor is a booth. It's booths with an S. It's a bunch of them. So it's usually like the regional center there. It's the Department of Water and Power that's going to be there. So there's other. So there's resources. There's community, you know, resources that's there that helps, you know, our people gain more information on how they can better take care of their child. There's we've had in the past. Breakout sessions where it was teaching kids who had siblings on the spectrum. So they were teaching them tools of how to help their brother and sister that's on the spectrum as well. And so that talk is out too. We have to remember that we have multiple children, that they have to learn about what autism is too. And they are growing up with a brother or a sister who is on the spectrum as well. And so all the stuff that goes in with their disabilities is actually affecting them too, because there's certain places that they can't go, because if we have to take the whole family, one of them can't handle it, then, sometimes we don't go. And sometimes it's stressful for them. And then sometimes they get a little angry and resentful because you're paying all this attention to this kid. Well, we're here too. And so there are resources for siblings as well. And there are resources for families and parents who, are the higher stress percentile now, period. And so learning how to breathe, taking yoga, stuff like that. We do have people there that actually help us as well. There's other companies that started. There's a tennis company where they solely deals with kids that are on the spectrum, that teaches them how to play tennis. There's a lady that teaches them how to surf. There's a woman that has a dance company, that teaches kids that's on the spectrum, and they have like full-blown productions. And so there's a lot of information and stuff that's given too. Yeah. And I just come out. And I'm hosting the luncheon. So come and watch me host. if you will. Thank you.
And to her point, it's just there are definitely things out there, resources out there. Sometimes you just gotta ask. I mean, I believe AMC movies, usually in the summertime, or I think every Tuesday or something, is for kids with autism. They can go in there and you can watch the movie. Yeah, they'll dim the lights, or they'll adjust the sound to where it needs to be.
They'll lower the sound.
Yep. There's some other things I'm still trying to figure out. I know Knott's Berry Farm. They do a lot of great things to make it easier for parents. In Disneyland, they're coming around. They have something where I think it's like half off on their tickets. But like I said, you never know. If you just ask, and you'd be surprised some of the things you can get that really help. Just makes your life a little bit easier. Yeah.
Right.
But can normies go?
Well, if you are a family,
because I'm stressed.
Family, that's what we call it.
So, thank you both for all of your wisdom and knowledge. When young people live with a disability that sets them apart from the norm, life can seem to be extremely challenging, making it difficult to learn, establish friendships, and to find support and encouragement outside of home. However, most would agree that those individuals we label as different or even special needs are unique blessings who usually pour love and encouragement into the lives of others.
Yep. Amen, Aspen. On that note, YVMC hosted a tea party for Kalea Irving. She shared her testimony with us, and it was really a blessing. And she's not the only one that had fun. We had some adults, as you will see in the video that I'm about to show you. We had a good time just listening to music, teaching the young girls how to have a proper tea party. Pinkies up, thank you.
Yes, etiquette.
Hi, this is Kalea. I am a 12-year-old author, professional musician, songwriter, and singer. And this is Young Voices Making Choices.
For my book, Now I See, One of Child's Gifts, A Vision of Music, it talks about my testimony. We can't thank you enough. helps the hard work because that's what God put in us. That's how He created us.
When you see your supernatural visions, what do you do? What do you feel like?
As soon as I see it, I immediately tell my auntie. And she says, that's God telling you something, so just believe it and you receive it. I've made it through my dreams. I've made up my mind to follow Jesus the rest of my life. I made up my mind to follow Jesus the rest of my life. I didn't let that stop me, and look at me now. We're here today at this amazing tea party. And whatever you're going through right now, or whatever has happened in the past for you, just don't let that stop you from just keep moving forward. You should just leave your past behind and start a future. Just stay positive and just do what you want to do. Tea party!
She's 12, okay?
Amazing. Yes, little baby.
Wow,
Love her,
she-
Miss Irving. Yes.
Right, phenomenal, talented young woman.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
So before we close out, do any of you have any closing remarks? Anything that we should know how to support, the autism community in our daily lives?
The only thing I think that comes to mind is that if you see a child that may not be acting the way that you feel should be acting in public, just think that it might be something else going on. At least give the child and the parent the benefit of the doubt. Some kids are not always bad kids. Sometimes they do have, issues that's preventing them. If you see them crying or having, some type of tantrum, it might be because they're overstimulated. It might be because they can't take it. It might be, because they're tired or something's going on, and that's the only way that they can communicate. And so just stop with the faces, because it's very discouraging, and then it stops us from coming outside. And that's why a lot of, our inside, or don't come around often, because everywhere we go, we're getting ridiculed and we're getting talked to and talked down on, and they're looking at us like we don't know what we're doing, and you're just not, snatching them up, and because I've gotten that. I've gotten that a lot at church. I've gotten it. We were put out at one point, and he wasn't able to come into the the regular congregation because he made noise. And so because he stems real loud and he makes like loud noises all of a sudden, and so we were not able to come into the congregation at one point. And so it's like, and it was until I told them that he was autistic that they apologized and felt some type of way. So it's like, we shouldn't have to tell everyone. And I have a bad habit, and I still do it, as if he's acting a little atypical, I'll just whisper to the person next to them that's looking at us crazy and tell them he's autistic. And so they go, oh, okay. And so we need to stop having to tell people that they're autistic, and just people be like, okay, maybe he is, give us the benefit of the doubt, because we're doing as much as we can to make sure, because I used to submerge mine in all kind of situations, because he needed to be desensitized from it. But we did it, I did it so that we, with the adults and his interaction, or their interaction with him, would lessen his reaction, because he would react to the faces, and he would react to I was like, Jojo, do you feel their spirits? Their spirits are bad.
It's not you, it's them.
Zane, did you have anything that you wanted to I guess tell the community?
I think early diagnosis is very crucial, as much as possible. I think the earlier you can identify it, the better the outcome. You know, I mean, you can do it, but I mean, but when it's later, it's kind of hard. I think it's harder when you wait longer. But I mean, it seemed to benefit us, and so, but don't give up. Keep pushing, and always, support your child in terms of like be that lawyer. I don't care what the teachers tell you.
Right.
You gotta support them and have their back. And,
Absolutely.
Right. Brandon, do you have any words?
Just to piggyback off of what Faith and what Zane was just saying, I'll just say again, have that open ear. Be willing to listen. We do not know everything, and none of us are perfect. When you listen and you're taking in information on something that you don't know, you'll be surprised how warm you can feel. Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know that he needed to be wrapped up like a burrito. Well, I didn't know that she stemmed a lot, But you then also, you may not know how smart and how gifted that individual is.
Right.
You said your son is doing physics. Or was it he was doing physics or the other
No,
guys?
he finished physics in ninth grade.
I dropped physics in the 12th grade. Student athlete can't do it, too hard. Don't want to do it. Don't even want to try. So that is something.
And he's a student athlete too.
And that is something that a lot of people need to know, though. A lot of people need to know that they need to have this open ear, though, and to be more loving and more accepting.
Right.
And not just of people with developmental disabilities, of just everyone in general.
Right.
I used to always say, especially when he was smaller, I used to be so sad because I used to say that they're missing out on him because he's such an awesome kid. Like if you get to know him and just chill around him, and once he feel comfortable with you and the way he opens up, he's such an awesome kid. Man, I used to feel so bad because people missed out, and they're missing out on how awesome of a kid he is. He's an awesome young man. He's so funny. She knows it. He's hilarious.
I love JoJo.
Yeah, and there's certain people who he just, he gravitates to because he knows that he can be open and free and not have to be, ridiculed. And so, what more could we have, could the community do?
Right.
And what more could they see?
Right. Well, thank you for coming and talking with us today and giving us your advice. It is time for couples appreciation.
Woo woo! Look at that's cute.
Okay. Yes, and in closing, we want to leave you with a millennial highlight from the month of April. For all you couples, how do you show your significant other that you love them without breaking the bank? That is a good question. That is a good question.
Well, here are some of our peers showing their unconditional love. Just remember not to try this in the grocery store.
I know exactly what I want to drink. Are you listening to me?
Yeah, I got you.
No, you're on the phone. You're not even paying attention to what I'm saying. Are you listening to me? What do you want to get from the store? I know exactly what I want to get. Babe, I want to get naked.
Oh my God! Freak. Hold on.
So, babe, I got the drink. Happy Couples Appreciation Month. Many thanks to you and our guests, Faith Rutan and Zane Hubbard and Brandon Larkins, for joining us tonight. See you next week, same time, same place. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.